I'm so scared right now.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Echoes of Azeroth, because it's pulling from all the 9 previous expansions. That goes into like when, kind of like when we talk about D&D random encounters, and it's like, yeah, random encounters are okay, I guess, some of the time, but they don't feel connected.
Right. Actually, mini centaurs seem like they would make a lot of sense because you could actually go into taverns and stuff. It's very hard to do that otherwise.
That or you call them a centaurling.
Centaurling? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Halftar.
Halftar.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, half cents.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway.
Don't have any thanks.
Yeah, sir. Alex, I am back from the mead hall.
Oh, perfect. And you are still drunk, I assume?
Oh, yeah. It's been a week since I've had anything to drink, but that doesn't mean I'm not still drunk, so that's fun.
Understandable.
Yeah,
understandable.
There was so much. Anyway, oh, hello to everybody out there. We are indeed back. I am Nathan.
And I am Alex, and welcome to Total Pebble Knockdown.
We knocked down all the pebbles, and it was probably because the pebbles were also drunk. So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep, perfect. Anyway, we got some important stuff that we want to get into, so let's just jump right into it. Alex, we have some suggestions that come by the wayside from some of the people that are fans of the show. We're always happy to get those. Clayton Calix sent us a video that he wanted us to react to. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a little bit ago. We've just been inundated with drinking halls.
Yes, there's been drinking halls aplenty. The video that we've been given is from Labat, and it's I made a World of Warcraft expansion with AI. Oh, this is going to be fun for you, Alex.
Wonder how old this video is.
It is 1 billion years old. Here we go. Echoes of Azeroth.
Whoa, wait a minute, hold on. I know what you're thinking. What in the is World of Warcraft Echoes of Azeroth?
Yeah, well, what is it?
After learning about Activision Blizzard's patented use of AI when it comes to its properties, which I covered in a previous video, I had a thought. If Blizzard can do it, couldn't anybody? After all, there are public forums and wikis that have documented the story, lore, and characters of World of Warcraft over the past 20 years. Could an individual take this data and use artificial intelligence to try to make a mock-up of their own World of Warcraft expansion?
Sure.
World of Warcraft Echoes of Azeroth.
Okay, so first of all, just pause for a second. Are you following what's going on so far? Because it's outside my wheelhouse, so...
Essentially, apparently, Activision Blizzard uses AI to help do stuff.
Yes.
Somehow.
Azeroth is the answer to that question. I put together 15,000 pages of publicly accessible documents pertaining to the entire history of the Warcraft franchise and asked ChatGPT, based on what it learned about World of Warcraft, could it help me write the next chapter in the series?
No.
Now, to give you an idea of this making for comparison, remember that one series about a beautiful half-giant who saves some disfigured magic kid living in a staircase?
Oh, God.
Sorry, it's me, Hagrid.
That entire series is about 4,500 pages. This World of Warcraft project nearly triples that.
Oh, God.
There's a couple of goals for this video.
Oh, God.
One is to parody what World of Warcraft expansions have become, as well as to serve as a commentary on how formulaic game trailers are in the modern age. It's also meant to shine a light on how helpful or harmful artificial intelligence can be, given its specific use case.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to assume that this ends up being more harmful than helpful, just out of the gate.
When was this video made is my question really quick. I'm gonna look that up on YouTube.
It was a month ago.
A month ago? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means it's given into the newest expansion of Warcraft, which means it's going off of the last 9 expansions.
Great. Okay.
So this has an idea, but also I would like to just preface that entire thing with the fact that they do have the Chris Metzen back on the WoW dev team, essentially, and he was one of the original guys that helped create Warcraft, Starcraft. He was working on Overwatch, in Diablo, but he was originally like the guy with the big picture ideas and stuff and world building for WoW.
Oh,
and
sure.
he had left in 2016.
Oh, okay.
But he is back, and apparently they're trying to do newer things within the world, as they've said, and I've been listening to some stuff. Some of the stuff they want to do going forward is not just like, I guess, using content just that was in Warcraft, the RTS games. They're trying to do they're like, we want to be able to do newer things. So this is probably going to be very not newer things.
Not newer things. Okay.
That's my guess. Good. That's my prediction is this is going to be story beats and stuff that have been seen before, which, I mean, obviously that happens a lot, but I'm guessing it's going to be war and the old gods and titans and evil guy does thing, wrecks place, and then you guys say, you know, very formulaic.
I love when evil guy does bad thing. It's my favorite.
Bad guy does bad thing.
I'm so scared right now.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Echoes of Azeroth, because it's pulling from all the 9 previous expansions.
My name is lead developer Jin Erickman, and today we're thrilled to give you a first look at our most ambitious upcoming expansion yet, Echoes of Azeroth.
Cool.
History is woven into every facet of life in Azeroth, and for 20 years we've built the World of Warcraft together. But when the fabric of space-time begins to unravel, it's going to be up to you to bridge the gap and save Azeroth from the Echoing Isles. Islands that drift between the past and the present, holding keys
Timeless
to the
Isles, got it.
Of the Echo Stones, to the ruins of Valoran, a city adrift in the timeline, revealing secrets lost to time.
All right, hold on. So the Timeless Isle is already a thing.
Oh, okay.
That is a thing that was involved in Pandaria. It's an island that exists outside of time, essentially, hence timeless.
Sure.
So it's, as the characters or NPCs tell you, it's just perpetually this exact noon all the time here.
Oh, sure.
You know? But yeah, so currently one of the things going on in World of Warcraft is time rifts, which are alternate timelines that are kind of bleeding into ours, and we're to have to fix them.
Sure.
So yeah, I can see this being a thing that AI would pick up on, especially with Bronze Dragonflight bullshit throughout the years. The Caverns of Time being a thing. Time travel is pretty relevant in World of Warcraft, and making sure you preserve the timeline has been a constant theme, but it's also a theme they've broken at least once, and I think they plan on breaking it again. Given some of the stuff that's been going on in the current expansion. But when deep lore here now, back in Pandaria, for instance, on the Timeless Isles, what happened was one of the people there is the one that helped Garrosh escape his trial. I don't think you played during that, but essentially Garrosh had taken over the Horde and been just a ruthless, brutal dictator. So we sacked Orgrimmar, we laid siege to the entire city, both Horde and the Alliance, took Garrosh down, and he was going to stand trial, and then one of the Bronze Dragons helped him escape to an alternate timeline, Draenor. Or as you would have known it when you played, Outland.
Oh, okay, yep.
So Draenor is Outland before the demons came in and wrecked the place up.
Oh.
And so it was an alternate timeline, but also a familiar place that you've been in game. So that timeline is just a parallel, essentially. Not our Azeroth, not our timeline, it's a different one, but we're exploring it. So they've broken that once. It's not our timeline, it's someone else's, but we also took people from that timeline and brought them over to our existence.
Oh.
So that's what Warlords of Draenor was anyways. So
super simple.
Making sure you super simple. I honestly, a lot of people I feel didn't like Warlords being that for what it was, but honestly the storytelling was fine.
Sure.
But yeah, so I can see this island existing back, forward, and present through time. That's not Yeah, I can see where AI would get that.
You'll discover that the most valuable thing in World of Warcraft, more than
is
beer
love.
or gold, is time. We wanted to honor the time players
Love in
who spent
Warcraft.
with us, both the overarching theme of the
Make
story
love,
of
not
Echoes of
Warcraft.
Azeroth, as well as the new playable characters that accompany.
I feel like that was...
Meet the new races joining our
Oh
fight.
boy.
The timeless, ethereal beings with a connection to Azeroth's vast history.
Wait.
Hailing from the very dawn of Azeroth, the Timeless existed before the continents were formed.
Timeless.
They lived in the vast expanses of the cosmos, observing Azeroth's growth.
Great.
The Celestial Nexus, a vast city located at the conjunction of multiple timelines.
Oh, okay.
Timeless come with the ability Time Phase, ability to briefly rewind certain
Awesome. The
interactions,
Timeless have Time
and
Phase.
Eternal Wisdom, bonus to experience gain.
Hold on. So,
The lost are an ancient people
you-
whose advanced knowledge could be our salvation, or the end of everything.
So I feel like that's just taking off from Shadowlands,
Okay.
where Oribos, the city in Shadowlands, was basically the juncture of all of the afterlives.
Sure.
Shadowlands just explored the Shadowlands as it is known. It's the realm of death. But there are multiple different afterlives you explore, and there are 4, and then the 5th afterlife isn't really, it's just kind of like purgatory.
Sure.
Like, not just purgatory on Earth kind of deal, but like it's the realm of just like, yeah, you can't be saved, you don't fit in any of the other ones, you're just going here and you're basically torched for all eternity, essentially.
Got it. Good purgatory stuff. Yeah, good purgatory stuff.
So Oribos was that city at the juncture of the 4 different timelines, and then the different realms of death, and then the Maw. So
Perfect.
Yeah, again, this is just pulling straight from it, which is fine.
Perfect.
All right, I'll push play.
Okay.
As we know it, the once dominant civilization of Azeroth inhabited the lands now known as Uldum. Their mastery over time led to their downfall, as they pushed the boundaries too far and were erased from the timeline. They reside in the ruins of Valoran, a city that phases in and out of existence, now partially re-emerged due to the Echo Stones.
That sounds a little familiar to what they... Okay.
Leave behind a temporal clone that players can teleport back to.
Okay, demon ability.
And Arcane Legacy, enhanced crafting abilities. Echoes of Azeroth will allow us to revisit the Reach story and characters that make up the world of Azeroth. Echo Resonance allows you to experience pivotal moments in history, taking on the roles of iconic heroes and villains to ensure key moments in time play out as they're supposed to. Time-warped crafting.
Heroes and villains, what are you talking about?
Creating gear with dynamic properties. And for our PvP enthusiasts, prepare for chrono battles. Engage in epic fights that span Azeroth's rich history, while putting the future of your character on the line.
Future of my character?
The lines between past and present
the echoes go forward.
bringing forth challenges and allies from the annals of Azeroth's history.
Okay.
As you delve deeper, you'll confront old foes, ally with the Timeless, and unravel the enigma of the lost. At the heart of this chaos lies the Labyrinth of Echoes, a raid that will test your mettle like never before.
Great.
Together, we'll face Saloran, a guardian corrupted by the very power he once protected.
Yeah, that doesn't happen ever.
An entity created by the Timeless to
he looks like a Death Knight,
of
a little
Azeroth's
bit.
timelines.
Gold-colored Death
Knight was
Knight.
entrusted with the Echo Stone's power.
Oh, the Infinity Crystals!
Thanos would be proud.
But with the chaotic events following Dragonflight and the reemergence of the Lost, the sheer energy output by the Echo Stones began to corrupt Saloran. The Guardian, instead of protecting the timelines,
Captain Planet,
sought to merge them into one reality where he would reign supreme. Now it's up to you to stem the tide of Saloran's assault before it's too late.
Oh no, Avengers assemble.
Just the beginning. Join us as we embark on this epic journey through time.
Great.
Azeroth needs you now more than ever. So what did you
Interesting.
think? Everything that was written.
Let's pause it for a second, because I feel like we need to tell him what we think. What do we think, Alex?
Interesting. Again, it's hitting on story beats from several different expansions. Obviously, it's pulling from 15,000 publicly available pages of Warcraft information.
Right.
Honestly, I don't think I'd be impressed with that. That's too on the nose.
Yeah. It's time.
Like, oh, this bad guy was corrupted. That happens all the time.
Now he got the stones. He's got
the stones. Yeah, the Dragonflight's got stones too. The Oath Stones. We just fucking restored those.
Oops.
We've got this island that travels from the past to the present outside of time. It's like, yeah, we got one of those already too. Yep.
Yeah.
The races didn't sound interesting to me. Like, oh, they disappeared from the timeline, and I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
If they disappeared from the timeline, how are they still existing on the timeline?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it doesn't have to make total sense, but yeah, it's way too on the nose. This is exactly what you would expect from a World of Warcraft expansion if it was just formulaic.
Right. I mean, it seems like it's World of Warcraft, but in time capers. Like, it's time crimes, guys.
Yeah. Like,
but World of Warcraft.
I feel like an expansion focused on just like time shenanigans.
Yeah.
Would be interesting, but would get boring.
Yeah.
Like, we've already got enough timeline shenanigans going on throughout the game as is. Making it the central focus of the entire expansion would be a bit too much.
I can see an actual issue if we just decided, oh, there's time travel, which is like what happens with every single fictional world where they install time travel. We end up with just paradoxes upon paradoxes, and in a world like World of Warcraft that already has kind of like a rich history, how many bootstrap principles are we going to come up against, and butterfly effects that we're going to have to mitigate? The only thing that would possibly work is if they are indeed maybe like Echoes itself, where they don't affect the actual world by and large, but then why are we doing it in the first place?
I don't know. It sounds interesting. I think the AI did a great job given it was doing what it was pulling from, obviously. Sure. I don't think any of the premises on their own would be bad. You know, it's AI, it's doing it. It does what you tell it to do. It pulls from what you give it.
Yep.
And this is absolutely a product of what the guy gave it.
Right. Would you say, just because you're way more familiar with World of Warcraft than me, that the best parts of this are the ones that are essentially just stuff that they already put into the game?
Probably. Like the island going backwards and forwards in time sounds really, really neat, honestly. You could do interesting things with that. You could have it, 1 week it could be forward in time. It could be the future.
Yeah.
And then the next week it could have gone past, and it's just all of the entire environment changes, which could be really cool. But they've got something like that right now in game. In Dragonflight, it is the Primalist future.
Oh.
There's a section you go to. It's instance. It's a smaller area. It's not a huge zone, but it's essentially, you go into the Primalist future and defeat a couple bad guys and defend a couple portals to try and make sure this future doesn't happen. But it happens, in game. You can do it every however many times when it pops up, like every hour, every other hour, something like that. But it's like, it's the same zone, but it looks different because it's full of blizzards and stuff. But then you can go back and it's normal again. That type of stuff can be interesting. I think this video was cool.
Yeah, I can see, we'll finish up what he has in a second, but one thing that I would say, just from ideation on my own, is it would be kind of neat. If they created a section of the map, like they created a land in World of Warcraft, where there was essentially a centralized, city that's almost out of time, and then every week, the lands around it actually changed from different periods of time, and then it cycled through so you would see it at different time periods, and then it would cycle back, and maybe there were specific things and instances, and you could see the history unravel over the course of 10 weeks or something, and then it goes back.
Yeah, it could be interesting. You'd have to do it well, and that would take a lot of art assets as well.
Oh, sure.
Just, the amount of work you would have to do to make it so something like that was doable and fun would be insane, I imagine.
And I don't... But, I don't see it as something that they're actually suggesting here in the...
I will lead that off with the fact that currently, because I have been listening to some Warcraft videos, because I've been playing, and Dragonflight's pretty good, honestly. The team on World of Warcraft currently is around 700 people. And that is up from the, like, 90 people that originally worked on, like, older games for it. And coming up next year is World of Warcraft's 20th anniversary. The Warcraft franchise's 30th anniversary. We can bet they are pulling out all the stops for it.
Yep.
Because they do big things for those anniversaries, and it's 20 years of Warcraft. They're gonna pull out the stops.
Yep.
One theory that had been floating around is that because BlizzCon is coming up probably in the next 2 months. I don't remember exactly when. It is October, November, I think. And a lot of people had been theorizing that the next big expansion was going to be piratey because of some in-game lore that people found that was dropped in this expansion.
Sure.
And Blizzard has actually come out and said, nope, not pirates. But on the other hand, data miners have found that being added to the game files, but not implemented in the game, are new HD versions of older assets.
Okay.
And so the other thought people have that has all but been confirmed in news conferences and stuff by people that work like the big people in WoW, who, as Bellier Gaming was saying, they would not come out and say this to the press, knowing it would generate buzz and hype if they did not know what they were doing, because after 20 years of making a live service game, they probably learned not to write checks their mouth can't cash.
Yep.
And the thing that a lot of people are speculating for next year when that expansion drops is a revamp of the world. So all of the older classic zones that you probably remember from when you played years and years ago, probably close to 15 years ago now, all of those old zones and stuff potentially revamped into new HD textures and brought back in line. Because the other thing they actually have done is between the last expansion and this one, in-game has been a time skip.
Okay.
It's only been about 3 years in-game. But it's been a noticeable leap forward in time from where the game itself in-game has been.
Okay.
So...
interesting.
Yeah. I figured I'd leave us on that note for it, because I'm interested to see what they're doing. If this was the next expansion, I'd be like, okay.
Sure.
But I was also pleasantly surprised with how good Dragonflight was. I was not looking forward to it going up into it.
Sure.
And then it was like, actually, pretty fucking fun.
Yeah. That's good. You want to finish up the last little bit?
Sure.
To see what Labat says?
Yeah, we just got his closing. We'll see what he says, and we'll jump into the next one. All right.
Certainly.
Even the voiceover was done thanks in part to our friends over at Tangia. Tangia uses artificial intelligence to
it's just an ad read?
Engaging streams.
Probably is.
They even provide a custom TTS model that lets you train your own AI voice model.
Whoa, we need this, Nathan.
Yay, we can do
for Tangia.
Yep. Referral link. Here you go.
Scratching the surface of what ChatGPT put together for this expansion. There's skill trees, new enemies, battle and raid mechanics, and a lot more. If you like the world of Echoes of Azeroth and you want to learn more about it, just let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to do a follow-up video. Until then, I've been Labat, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks, and have a good one. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
I kind of thought that seems like it was an awful lot of work to get an AI product
a little bit.
But interesting. At least now that answers the question: if AI made Warcraft, what would it look like? I think that this has just basically confirmed to me something that I kind of already knew, which is that AI's not necessarily coming for your jobs unless they're making kind of ass media.
I will refer you to the wonderful, terrible AI-generated headline that Helicity had shared in our general chat.
Yep.
Useless at 42.
Yes, yeah, the eulogy that they were giving because somebody had died. Please understand, and I feel like we need to make this clear, AI is not actually an artificial intelligence. We do call it AI, but it is not an artificial intelligence. It is what we would refer to as a stochastic parrot. It will take information that it gets, and it will randomize it, and it will put it out into a form based on the information that you put into it. If people are not there to put information into the system, it has nothing to pull from, and it cannot create in a vacuum. It cannot build anything unique or that has not existed before. It has to be based on something that was created by a person at one point. And so that's the reason why in all of these fields, because we're having this conversation right now about AI and what the effect on many different medias are doing. That's actually the Writers Guild were very worried about that for the strikes. It's important to understand that all of this, and the Actors Guild, because they wanted to make AI models of them and just use them in perpetuity instead of the people.
No, that's so dumb.
Yeah. Understand, you create nothing new out of the system. You just randomize what has been in order to create new combinations.
Yeah. I feel like the writers have nothing to fear if this is what we're getting.
I don't even think that the artists or the actors do, because I don't see how they utilize this to create... Well... Okay, one minute.
We don't have to get into all AI right now. Interesting video. Let us know in the comments if you watched it. We'll leave a link to this video if you want to watch it yourself in the comments, because that's the nice thing to do.
Right.
Let us know what you thought of the Echoes of Azeroth trailer.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm going to say is that the ability for AI to actually succeed in any of these realms is based on what people expect out of their media and how much detail and, nuance they actually want. And I'm kind of scared by the answer that I would get from the majority of people out there in that regard.
Oh well.
But anyway, hit us up. Let us know what you think. Can you create something better than Echoes of that? Maybe.
I can, really quick. Since the revamp is what people are theorizing, I feel like they should name it... the reshaping of Azeroth, because it has to do in lore with the reshaping that Titans do of worlds. Sure. Yeah. Anyways,
there's some neat games coming out in the near future, but one big one just released that everyone's been talking about.
Baldur's Gate.
Well, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, which is definitely going to be up for some stuff. But no, it's Starfield. It's Bethesda. Yeah. Bethesda Game Studios themselves came out with another epic RPG. They've been working
first new IP in 25 years?
Something like that. And they've been working on this. They've been working on this for, probably the better part of a decade now. Since they originally had a confirmation. And it's been, several years since all we had was basically the opening screenshot of the little Starfield logo coming across. So it's been a process. You've been playing the Baldur's Gate 3, so I'm sure you're having a good time with that. Yeah. I am, however, playing the Starfield. And so I did want to talk a little bit about that. Fiddleback. You remember Fiddleback, right?
I do.
Fiddleback had put something out on whatever Twitter is called now, and had just said, has anyone been playing Starfield? And this was, the second day that it was out. And I responded back, yeah, I downloaded it last night. I've been tooling around with it a little bit. And so he asked me the question, does it feel like a smaller and more curated version of No Man's Sky? And I said, well, smaller, when you're trying to compare it to No Man's Sky, is almost like a guarantee, because it's No Man's Sky. Trying to create something as large as that is just that's basically every game.
Procedural generation, and then it doesn't feel tailored.
Right.
Yeah.
Curated, it definitely does, because it does have, more RPG elements. But the thing I basically said is, to kind of conceptualize it for everybody, is that it's not really a space game. It's really an RPG that is set in space.
Right.
Space is your backdrop. It's an RPG. It's much fairer to compare it to other epic RPGs, big open world ones like a Fallout or a Skyrim or even a Cyberpunk or a Witcher
games,
or like even a Skyrim. Sorry, like a Witcher or a Cyberpunk or any of those.
Okay.
It's probably fair to compare it to all of those, and so I try to look at it in that way, with space being, the backdrop. And so I thought that I would actually talk to you a little bit about the more unique aspects to it that are different than what you would experience in space games.
Sure.
Because that might be a little bit helpful for you. So the first thing that I wanted to explain is, despite what some people might be aware, it's not really an open world space in the game. You have systems that you can jump to, and you can jump to individual, planets, but it's not just one giant connected piece of space that you can go from, they're smaller hub areas.
Yeah, you've got to basically fast travel everywhere, is what I heard.
You do. You fast travel everywhere from one place to another. You also don't actually have entire planets to explore. What you do is you pick a landing spot on that planet, and it basically creates a place in that biome on the planet. Like, it seeds... It procedurally generates a seed of that area to explore. I did not mind this. I have not minded this, mostly because asking to explore 1,000 planets is not something I'm going to do anyway. So you might as well you might as well just
explore several.
Right, I'm going to explore several of them, and so what it does, which I think is kind of interesting, is that it will allow you to survey a planet. It will show you some of the research sources, and you can upgrade your scanner so you can see better resources. And then it will say, where do you want to set down based on the resources that are there and the biomes that are there. It will tell you what the different biomes are, and then you can set down wherever, and it will basically ping a landing spot on that planet when you go. When you get down there, there are some randomly generated things that are there. You can look over the horizon and see that there are natural landmarks, there are bases and ship graveyards and different bio entities that are there. And you can go about scanning or collecting resources or doing whatever you want in that area. And eventually
doing your No Man's Sky stuff.
Yeah, and eventually doing base building. You can create bases wherever you want, as long as it's not an
it's like No Man's Sky.
Like similar to No Man's Sky. Yeah. There's definitely a lot more combat than in No Man's Sky, I'll tell you that. And I do feel like it is definitely edging on the RPG elements. Because you do have a lot of talking and a lot of groups, a lot of agencies, essentially, that you can join that have storylines all of their own. I have not gotten far enough in any of those stories to talk about them specifically. I have, however, heard that a lot of the side content is better than the main story, which is not surprising for a Bethesda RPG, to be honest with you, because that is very typical. I can tell you a lot about different side quests in Elder Scrolls or Fallout games that I liked a lot more than the main missions. Fallout 3 and Skyrim are great examples of that, where the main mission is okay, but it's where you get into the weeds and get drunk with Sam Gwyn or whatever, and have to track down what happened last night. That's where the fun starts.
What happened to the goat?
Yeah, what happened to the goat? Yeah, no, it's all the side content. And luckily, they do actually have both kind of generated content, radiant quest lines, and then they also have the curated stuff.
Of course.
So
they learned from Fallout 4.
They learned from Fallout 4, and there are a lot of similarities to it, although I see that they have pulled from a lot of their previous properties. There are some things that it does that feels a little bit more like Fallout 3, even in the score, like the soundtrack. Some of the beats, like when I hear the music, remind me of Fallout 3. The way that they do conversation trees is not just like the choosing the sarcastic kind of things that they did in 4. They actually do have scheduled responses. You are a voiceless protagonist in this one, similar to 3 or Skyrim. Yes, and it works. I don't like it
when they have my player's or character's voice.
Yeah,
spoken.
I don't know if they learned some lessons from 4. You still have different characters that you can take with them that like or dislike things that you do, and it will affect their relationship. But there does seem to be a concerted effort to take some stuff from different games that they've made in the past and try to influence how this game works now. One of the things, though, that I really did like, that I thought was very different from every other Bethesda game, was how they handle upgrades and tech trees.
Oh.
And so I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I wanted to talk about that.
Not really.
So in this game, when you level up, you get a skill point. Okay. Your skill point can be put into one of 5 different tech trees, and as you put in like 4, you unlock the next level of tech tree, and then the next and the next 4 levels.
Yeah.
Each one of these skills that you get, and you start to realize many of them are very useful. Each one of these has 4 levels you can invest in. So that's cool. But it's not just a matter of saying, I invest a point in it, and then I can invest another and another and another. What they do is they create a challenge after you invest a point, and you have to complete that challenge to unlock the next level of that skill. So, I'll give you an example. Security is a skill. That's basically your lock-picking skill.
Yeah.
Out of the gate, you can do novice locks. Not a problem. You invest a point into security, and now you can unlock advanced locks. Terrific. In order to do the next level, the next tier of that skill, I first have to complete the challenge of unlocking 5 locks. I have to unlock 5 locks, and then I will be able to upgrade to the next level if I get a skill point and I want to invest it. And then if I do that, I have to do 10 locks, essentially, before I can invest in the 3rd skill. This is sort of like a combination of what they did with the Fallout skills, like the Fallout 4 block, but with some of the doing equals advancement of the Elder Scrolls series. And I think it's a pretty happy medium, because I always were, like, as soon as I got a skill point, I was ready to invest it in 3 different things and had to determine what I was going to invest them in, because I wanted to start getting the challenge going, so that I could make sure that I was actually doing things and still getting credit for them, now that I've unlocked a new skill. That's the one really innovative thing that I think it does. The one really
I don't think that's necessarily bad. It might be just kind of annoying later on when it's like, all right, make sure you go do 30 of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I always found that I was waiting to get skill points to invest in things, so the challenges aren't particularly prohibitive.
Well, that's good, at least.
Yeah, and to the point where right now in the game, there's about 5 different skills that I actually want to rank up, and a few more that I want to actually get. And I've completed the challenges for all of them. So the second I get a skill point, I can invest in any. So even if you do hit a roadblock where you're like, man, I gotta do like 30 upgrades in order to, get the next tier of upgrades for my spacesuit or my weapons, it's fine, because the second you get a skill point, there's other skills that you definitely want to invest in. That are going to be useful to collect more resources out in the field, or haggle better, or scavenge better, or whatever. And then as you invest those, you get better skills down the road. So I think that that's really interesting. But I will say that the big problem that I think it has, if I were to give you the one main problem with Starfield, is, when you're going into a Bethesda RPG, those big... Yeah, you do. You have this set world that's down there, and it feels very much like it was built by somebody, the entirety of it. And you can explore that map, and you always kind of know that map, and all the places that are on it, and they all feel very unique and genuine.
Does everything feel very cookie cutter?
the thing about Starfield is that they have the places that are made. Like, they are specifically built. There are towns, there are cities, there are outposts, space stations that were built, right? And they have specific characters and places that are there. And in those sections, you can feel like it is indeed, you know, a Bethesda RPG like you understand. The rest of it, where it's procedurally generated, feels like they did the scripting, and then it just jumped out of there, but it does not feel anywhere near as unique in the places that you go. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of, like, the underground mines in the game. You'll see them when you go landing on a certain spot and checking out the landscape. I've been to I want to say I've been to about 3 of these mines, and the layout is basically the same for all of them, to the point where I just did one, and immediately when I went down the ramp, I was like, oh, you know what? I bet that there's a computer console right there in front of me that I can use to activate a robot and change its IR settings so that it attacks people. And lo and behold, right where I thought it was, I could go there, I could turn the robot on and send him out after my enemies. Because it's the same layout. A lot of these are just the same layout over and over again. You'll see neat things that are in there, but it's mostly the same stuff from one layout to another. I feel
like they should have done scripting for the, like, just had I feel like what they could have just done with that is have a tile set and just been like, randomize it.
Yeah, no, they probably could. They probably could. It's, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not interesting, because, like, some of the places that I've gone to are like, this is really neat as just, like, random outposts. I went to one where it was, like, on this frozen moon, and I jumped down into this pit, and there's these little xenogrubs, as they're called. They're just, like, around all these frozen corpses. And you go down this hallway, and you find that there's, like, pirates are raiding this abandoned science lab that has gone terribly wrong. And it's like, it was cool that I found that place. It wasn't marked on a map, really. I was there to see a ship graveyard, but now it's on the horizon, and so we go and explore a little bit, but it doesn't really feel like it was there specifically in the universe. It was generated for that spot that I just randomly sat down at.
That goes into, like, when kind of like when we talk about D&D random encounters, and it's like, yeah, random encounters are okay, I guess, some of the time, but they don't feel connected.
Right. Right. I just felt like those parts are weaker elements to the part where you're actually doing the RPG thing. And I think that what they wanted to do, I imagine that there were conversations at Bethesda where they were like, well, we want to do an epic RPG like we do, but we want to make it a space game, and there's an expectation in space games that there's thousands of planets. Well, we can't obviously curate 1,000 planets. That's just insane. Full planets that we explore. So what we got to do instead is we got to create our curated content where we actually build specific places, and then we're going to create, like, 990 other planets. And those are all going to be random, and we'll script all of those random elements. I'd rather they didn't do that.
This is why whenever we've talked about space games before, this is why I always come back to, it's a matter of they overscale it. If you scale back to a solar system size, you could have 100 different bodies to explore if you really wanted. Look at Jupiter out here. It's got 50 freaking moons. Right. Many it's got 70, 80 moons.
The cool thing is, too, I will say, is that you actually can go to the local system in this game, and you can go to what is left of Earth. You can go to Mars and the moons of Jupiter and all of that. Great stuff. I guess they actually used NASA imagery for a lot of that, too.
I mean, that's free to use anyway, so why not?
But I can really see a bonus. If it were me and I was developing it myself, I would have just committed to the idea that we're not going to be No Man's Sky. We're not going to be Elite Dangerous. We're not going to explore 1 billion solar systems. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. Let's do 10. Let's do 10 solar systems. Because the storyline is essentially about how they have settled systems. There are certain systems here that have been settled, and there's not a lot of drive anymore to explore beyond that. But then now you're uncovering these ancient artifacts, and there's this idea that maybe we should be. Maybe there's something beyond the stars that we don't know about yet that isn't in the settled systems. So
gotcha.
Do it so that you have like 3 or 4 settled systems, and then turns out that there's like 6 other systems that are beyond the pale. Focus it back in.
I'm hoping one of the worlds you come across is just Skyrim.
That'd be great. You know, they created 1,000, planets, or like in however many solar systems. Maybe it was 1,000. Anyway, they created all of that. It would be great if they did like just straight up. There's a planet where like it's just all the creatures from Skyrim are there.
Oh, it's just Whiterun, Skyrim, all this stuff. That's similar to Elite Dangerous on the other side of things, where yes, a lot of that universe or a lot of that galaxy is procedural, but allegedly there is a planet from lore that exists somewhere in one of the many star systems in the game. They go, we're not going to tell you where it is. It's a big secret. It's a big old secret. No one knows if it's real or just a rumor that they do to hype people up. But it's from the original Elite Dangerous. It's like a gateway to something or whatever. I don't even remember the lore of it. But like, it's this planet called Raxla. It's a big mystery. It's like it exists out there. It really does. The devs are they say it all the time. It exists.
Mm-hmm.
But no one has found it.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have explored like not but 1% of that system, galaxy.
Yeah.
So it's like they might never find it. Great, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's that. Hey, it sounds really cool. Hopefully you can get to it. I just feel like the way that they had to implement it for all of those other systems, they wanted to make it feel big. I understand that. They wanted to make it feel like it was incredibly lived in. And if you were to try and just discover everything on every single one of those planets, it would take you forever to do. I don't even know how many countless tens of thousands of hours it would take to do that. But because of the way they had to implement it, it doesn't really feel big like a space game. So I would have just said, just abandon that idea entirely and focus it back in. Because here's the other thing that kind of gets annoying for you. Let's say you go to one of those space stations and you like the space station, right? And you wanted to go back there, not on a mission, but because there are vendors that you like to visit there and you know that there's a space station. Well, as you unlock more of these places, you just jump to them. On the main map, those dots for each one of those systems goes from red to white. So I know that the white dots are ones I've visited, but as I keep exploring more and more of them, it gets harder and harder to tell what systems I want to go to and the places that I want to visit. Because each one of those systems is like a dungeon unto themselves that have a bunch of sub-dungeons. So now I have to remember, oh no, where is the den? Because I know I can unload like a contraband and stuff at the traders at the den, but I only had to visit that for like one mission. I don't have any other missions to the den that I can use as a marker. Where is it?
So, it sounds like what they need is, again, similar to what Elite Dangerous has, is a bookmarking system.
Yep. That'd be very
handy. Because they have that in Elite where you can just bookmark systems, write a note on it, bookmark it, and then you can go into your map, you can look at your bookmark, select it, and then be like, plot a course to this system.
Sure.
Because in Elite you have to fly to it, you don't just fast travel, so.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of UI stuff that they have to improve. They have to do something about the shipbuilding, because I can duplicate items, but I can't seemingly buy new items to put onto the ships.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a little, like, I can upgrade certain aspects, but I can't, like, say, oh, I found, like, this cool part for a ship. Can I load on a new part? I don't have, like, a choose new part thing to put onto the
it sounds
ship that I know
broken right now.
That I know of. Maybe I have to get a skill or something in shipbuilding to make it happen.
I saw that somebody has apparently given plans out on Steam on how to make the Ebon Hawk.
Perfect.
So
I'd love to do that.
If you're familiar with that ship in Star Wars, so.
Am I familiar with the Ebonhawk? Yes.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the ship in Star Wars, I said.
Yeah, the Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that game.
Yeah. Someone on Steam, I looked at, I was like, oh, someone's built the Ebonhawk already.
Yeah, perfect. Nice. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it has its charms, and it definitely does have some rough stuff around the edges. I will tell you, though, that one problem that this has that is very similar to every other Bethesda RPG that I have encountered, and I have encountered it quite frequently, are weight limits. And
I use mods for that.
Yeah, I know. The thing that's weird about it is that it's like, it's annoying, but it's not crippling the way they install it. There's a function in this game that's an O2 meter. You basically have an oxygen meter. If
one of the guys at work is playing and told me about this.
Yeah.
So go on.
If you exert yourself or run or anything like that, it depletes your oxygen meter and it would have to refill. You could deplete it all the way, you end up getting CO2. And if your CO2 goes all the way up, you start to lose health. And then you have to replenish it. Interesting system, not gonna lie. Interesting. But
doesn't sound good to me, though.
But when you have encumbrance, even walking will start to deplete that O2 meter.
Jeez.
And running will deplete it really fast. And the more encumbrance that you have, the faster this goes. Now, I've upgraded all of my weight all of my weight expansions. It wasn't very hard to do. Because I think the challenges are like, run for so many yards when you're at 75% of your weight limit or whatever. It's like, that's not gonna be hard to do. But at any rate, now I can carry like 250 for mass. It does not take very long, even with my general equipment, to have at least 100. And so once you're collecting resources, which of course you're going to, because you have to pick up everything in the game.
This is why I said I use mods, because when I was playing Fallout 4, especially because of that crafting system, I'd go through Corvega. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to pick up everything I can use for,
then you
scrap.
Can't do anything after you get out of it.
And then you get encumbered, you can't fast travel, or you can't walk at all, you can't do anything. So I would end up fast travel, deposit all my stuff, come back, and finish clearing out. I prefer the convenience of not having to make that trip 500 times.
Right.
I'm playing for fun. This is taking me out of having the fun. I'm installing a mod that makes it so that this is not an issue I have to deal with.
Right. I think it's interesting because recently, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I played a few different titles from Piranha Bytes, who's a pretty well-known, very well-respected German developer, and they're kind of well-known for making very somewhat difficult games. Like, they made the original Gothic series, which is famous for basically saying, you are but meat to the fodder, and you will be happy if you live through a rat encounter. Basically, that was Gothic. And then they made the Risen series, and they made Elix. And the thing that I found really refreshing about all of their games, there is no encumbrance or weight requirements. You pick up everything you want. There is never a point where you are going to be slowed down or mitigated at all based on how much stuff is in your inventory. Best thing they ever implemented, because it keeps you engaged.
Exactly.
Yeah. But this does have that problem, and it gets worse, I will tell you, because your spaceship also has weight limits.
Oh, jeez.
So I go back to my ship, like the Frontier, which is the first one you start out at, and I say, put all the resources into there, and it's like, oh, your ship is full now, and I still have, like, most of the resources that are taking up 100, 200 mass in my thing. It's very quick. I have, however, just run across, because I went to a space station, and it was just docked there, so I thought, screw it, I'll get it. A giant UC cargo hauler.
There you
go. It's not good for combat. I have no missiles on it. It's probably not even good for a hull, but it has like over 2,000 mass for cargo capacity. So I'm using that now, and I'm a little annoyed because I had just worked on getting my what was it, the Mantis. There's a side note, there's a quest line in the game that you get very early on where it's like this secret facility that you can visit, and it's like, ooh, there's a cool treasure trove of cool stuff, and you can go there and you do that mission, and it turns out that there's basically the Starfield equivalent of the Batman basically lived there, the Mantis or whatever, and had set up all these traps for getting down there. And if you get through the traps and you get through the raiders that are trying to get there, you get to what is essentially the Bat Cave, and in that you literally do get some legendary gear that is the suit that the Mantis would have worn, and you get the Razor Leaf, the Mantis's ship. That is far better than the ship that you started out with. Cool, but it still didn't have very good cargo capacity. So in order to haul stuff around the freaking universe here, I can't really use my Mantis as my home ship.
Yeah. Do you get to keep more than one ship?
Yep, you can have multiple ships.
Okay. Well, that's good. The other question I had seen kind of a little bit about it, saying that the space stuff wasn't that great in the spaceship, like the combat, for instance, wasn't...
Yeah, it's not as fleshed. I think if anyone was hoping to have like a real spacey adventure, they are going to be sadly disappointed with it, because the space, again, is really just there to get you to the planets mostly, and to do some dogfighting and to interact with some of the other ships. It's basically the on-ground experience, but in space. And there's some neat stuff there. You know, you can deal with raiders and all of that. And you can even, like, blow up asteroids for resources and stuff. There's some neat stuff where you can communicate with the other cargo haulers and stuff and trade with them, and maybe they need help or assistance. I did have one interesting encounter where it was a luxury tour that was out there in space, and they hailed me, or I hailed them, and the tourists that were on there had questions about what it's like being a spaceship captain, and you could answer the questions for the tourists who were so happy. Why don't they just
ask the person that's piloting the luxury
they're just they're just tour guides, apparently. They're hanging out.
There's no captain?
No, there's no captain. And then if you can answer those questions, like the tour guide is so nice, it gives you credits and stuff. And these are again kind of like random things that you might pop up when you're going across them, but it's very limited. There's not a ton of things to do in space, and you're probably going to think to yourself that you didn't have a real reason to spend a lot of time trying to, make your ships and your ship combat any easier. That it's probably not a focal point. It didn't feel like a focal point for the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect game for any. By any stretch of the imagination, but...
It almost sounds to me like, again, if we're using other space games as a metric, it sounds to me like the reverse of Elite Dangerous.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Elite has really good ship-based everything. It's the flights, because everything was made on a game that's designed just for the spaceships.
Sure.
And so the combat's fine, the advanced combat is insane, the flying the ship is fine, all the controls for the ship are good, everything in that is based for the ship. But then they added the on-foot section, which is a lot clunkier. It's not as fleshed out. I mean, they do their best, but it's like the systems are not as good or as fleshed out or as fluid. So I feel like it's almost like it's just the opposite, where they went, we're going to make a great Bethesda RPG, but give you a spaceship.
Yeah.
But it's not designed for the spaceship. It's designed for you being on foot.
Right.
And Elite goes, we're going to give you a great spaceship simulator.
Right.
And also, here's now an on-foot and a ground vehicle you can use and do stuff on-foot missions with. But really, it's focused on the spaceship. So
Right. It's interesting because I was sitting there, and since somebody like Fiddleback had referred to it as like comparing it to No Man's Sky. In No Man's Sky, I can't really edit or modify my vehicles, but what I can do is fly them around. Like, so there's a trade-off there. I feel like if there was this game,
even in Elite, you can't edit your vehicles as much as, like, you can build your ship in Starfield, but you can select your paint jobs, you can customize, you can get ship kits to, like, add aesthetic stuff to the ships, which you have to buy with real money, but the point is they're there.
Yeah.
You can do ship skins,
that in Starfield,
you can paint them,
so you know.
And then you can do, you can change out your entire ship's loadout, like, in, like, the internals and the weapons and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't really change your appearance as much, but there are tons of skins. And then No Man's Sky is really just kind of, you can change your ship's trails.
Sure.
For the jets on
the
end,
you
which
can
if
do
you're
a little
flying around in a little bit, and then everything else is just internal and you don't see it.
Exactly. And so, they do some... I mean, the thing is that, like, what you can do with your ship builder in Starfield is very interesting, because you can literally put new modules and stuff in it, and you can add weaponry and all of that.
Which, honestly, is something I'd be interested in Starfield.
Oh, sure.
You know, because I like that concept, but...
Right. And, I mean, the other cool thing, I will say, that I really did like is the idea of being able to actually go onto ships and walk around in them.
Yes.
Which is something that you don't normally see. I can go and walk around my own ship, but then also, if I board other ships, I get to walk around those other ships as if they are environments. Very cool. Like that a lot.
That is something we have been waiting for in Elite Dangerous still.
They have it in Starfield, so there's that. But then it's kind of underutilized when you get it into actual space and have to utilize it. So I guess just to kind of like wrap up my general thoughts on it, having played for 20, 30 hours now, it's not by any stretch of the imagination a perfect game. I think that it's a bad idea to refer to it as a space game anyway, but really an RPG that uses space, more in the vein of maybe like a Mass Effect, honestly, in that terms. But like trying to be a little bit larger and, you know, more of an epic open world RPG instead. So, oh god, does that mean it's like Andromeda? Oh god. Anyway, kinda is. Oh, that's scary. But at any rate, I still see this as the kind of game that, let's face it, people are going to be playing this for 10 years. Like, it's going to be like every other one of these that has come along. It's going to be like Fallout 3. It's going to be like Skyrim. People are going to be playing this for a decade. They're going to be constantly modifying it, and
I was going to say, and considering the modding community behind Bethesda's other games, you give it not even a year, and there's going to be 20,000 mods for it.
It's not going to take long.
Fix bugs, change things, make space have combat.
Yeah.
Whatever Bethesda didn't intend for the game will now be in the game. It's going to be a sex simulator at its heart.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be Space Sex Simulator 2023. Hope everybody enjoyed. 2024, it's probably going to come out. Don't worry, folks. Yeah. It's inevitable. I mean, so... On the one hand, is it perfect? No. I will give you, though, the one positive. It is surprisingly stable for a Bethesda game at the start.
Hopefully they've had years to figure that out.
Yeah, but literally just because I know that it's always a trope that when you get a Bethesda RPG, expect that the bugs and the glitches are a feature, not a bug. But I will tell you that having played a lot of them, I have experienced very few bugs and glitches. I think the one that I found the most annoying was when I landed on a space station, and the exit door that I'm supposed to leave the space station from did not actually have a hard point to actually access when I went back to it.
Oh, good.
So I couldn't leave the space station, and I had to go back to an older save so that I could, you know, I had to, like, do the activities in that station again, but it spawned, so I could actually leave at that point. But that was the worst thing that actually happened in the game.
That's not bad, then.
No. So, overall, yeah, I think that it's pretty good. It's a lot of fun. It's the kind of thing that you expect. If you're going into this just saying I want a Bethesda RPG like the other RPGs you had and you had fun with those, good news. This is another one. This is another one. Yeah. So I think you're going to enjoy for that. If you're looking for this to be a richer RPG-ish experience with more customization elements of a No Man's Sky, and you're looking for it from the aspect of having a big exploration-based action game like a No Man's Sky, it's probably not going to do that for you, because it's a different kind of game. So, just be aware of that. You go in with the expectations of it being a Bethesda RPG, like other RPGs you've played. If you like those, you're gonna like this. If you think that this is going to be the next No Man's Sky, it doesn't do the same things. It doesn't.
Starfield, a Bethesda game.
Starfield. It's a Bethesda game, but in space. That's what it is. Hey, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. So, yeah, I think that it's fine, but I'm kind of interested in how everybody else feels. If you've been playing Starfield and you have any thoughts on it, please let us know in the comments down below. I guess if you're wondering how I feel about the whole reactionary dialogue around it, there's going to be a Patreon video where I talk about that, so feel free to sign up over there.
Yes, for $1 a month, hit up our Patreon. You can see what Nathan really feels.
Yeah, you can see how I feel about that whole dialogue, because, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to go into it now. I don't want to do it.
We spent too much time on this as is. Let's get into the next one.
Okay, excellent. So, Alex, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we discussed D&D 3E. Remember that?
Yeah, we did. We talked about 3.5, 3E, and actually, we got a lot of views on that video.
A lot of views, a lot of comments, a lot of people interested in it, and there were a couple things that they were questioning. One of them was about barbarians, and so we did a video a little bit ago about barbarians and how they were implemented, the history of them. And the other thing was about us not really knowing that much about prestige classes.
I didn't touch on them much.
No.
It has been years since I played 3.5.
Yes.
Over a decade, mind you. And you didn't really ever play 3.5, so hitting on something that I have not had to look at and remember anything about in over a decade, with my ADHD brain, it does not function that way. I cannot recall that, you know?
Right. So what I did is I actually wanted to pull something up and just look at prestige classes, because they are not the same as subclasses, and they do function differently.
They do.
So I think the one thing that I found really interesting when I was looking into this is that I don't actually have to take prestige classes if I don't want to.
Nope. They are optional. They are essentially what a prestige class was, and I'm sure you're going to get more into it anyways, but since we were talking about it specifically, prestige classes were kind of like advanced classes, if you will. It is, you need to meet a certain set of requirements to go into a prestige class. And then the prestige class gives you a set of stuff that the normal classes typically wouldn't. My favorite example from when I played 3.5 was I had a barbarian who then took a couple levels of wizard because he had the high enough intelligence for it.
Nice.
And there is a prestige class, or was a prestige class, known as a rage mage.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to have, like, rage as a class feature, and you have to have, like, the ability to cast spells of a certain level, I think. And then you can become a rage mage, which basically their core feature is that you can now, instead of being unable to cast spells while enraged and raging as a barbarian, it now lets you cast spells while raging.
Got it.
Which means you've got this big frothy-mouthed barbarian throwing fireballs as they throw a freaking axe in your face.
Perfect. That's great. I love that combination.
Anyways, so they're more like advanced classes.
So it turns out that we were not the first one to really ask or address this, and so I have an article here. It was from D20 Collective. It came out a few years ago, and they actually have a section here where they talk about prestige classes versus subclasses, which I find very handy. So
happy and handy.
Happy and handy, yeah. And that, from my limited perspective, as they say, if you're familiar with 5e or you started there, the concept of prestige classes can be seem overcomplicated. But for the most part, functioning similar to provide further customization for players to characters, but a few major differences. I think we already touched on the first one, that you have to meet requirements to take prestige classes. These vary by the exact class you're going with, but typical prerequisites include the ability to spellcast, the ability to take fighter-specific feats, or levels and ranks in certain classes and skills.
Right.
The other thing that they're going to get into it later with some of them, is I was interested that there are prestige classes that can apply to different classes. So, like, you have different prestige classes, but they could apply to your, like, a wizard or a warlock or bard, or, you know, that there are multiple classes that are eligible for a prestige class.
For the most part, yes. There are also specific prestige classes that were there. A dwarven defender, for instance, as a prestige class, requires that you're playing a dwarf.
Yeah, I would imagine it does, yes.
There was another one for an elf, I don't remember, I think, that required you were some kind of elf, you know?
Okay, yep.
You know, these other requirements is like elf-specific, dwarf-specific.
Right.
And there weren't a ton of them, I don't believe, that required you be a specific race for it.
Sure.
But as you said, there are things that can be for multiple classes.
Sure.
Like, as long as you meet the requirements, like maybe you need a base attack of 5, and then this other thing. And it's like, oh, well, my ranger or my fighter or my barbarian can take it, you know?
Sure. So from the article, this means that you have to work toward prestige classes rather than building them into your backstory at level 1, although you certainly sow the seeds for them there. Yeah, that's the other thing, is that prestige classes you choose to take, subclasses are actually something that you are going to have to take in order to do character development in 5.
Right.
You can change your mind on the way there, or base your selection on events in-game and counted as a reward for your progress so far. Second, of course, you don't have to take prestige classes. Nope, you absolutely don't. Like I said, subclasses are built in, but prestige classes are not. Third, you can take multiple prestige classes. You'd have to check with your DM, of course, but make sure that you meet all the requirements. But unlike 5e, prestige classes can be layered and added on top of each other. You can have as many as you can qualify for. Yep. Yeah. Did you ever try
you can multi-class however you want in D&D, so...
Yeah. And then they also say that finally, when you take prestige classes, you are multi-classing.
Yes.
So that when you level up in a prestige class, you don't take any of the disadvantages that are usually associated with the process in 3.3.5. A slight hit to experience points, for instance, but you do gain only the bonuses of the prestige class. If the hit die, for instance, of your base class is higher, you cannot elect to roll that. You must level as though you are taking a level in another class altogether. The skill proficiencies and attack save bonuses are added similarly. Okay, so yeah, definitely a different kind of thing. But I actually thought they gave a few examples of their favorite prestige classes from 3.5.
Rage Mage.
Is there a Rage Mage in here? They do not mention the Rage Mage.
Horizon Walker was fun too.
Oh yeah? So these are the ones that they gave. The Rainbow Servant. I don't know if
you're familiar. Don't know that one.
Oh, they're sworn vassals of Coatls, the mythical and magical rainbow birds who originate from Aztec mythology. So,
okay, I know the bird, I just don't.
Yeah. So this, for instance, requires players to have located a Coatl temple in-game, as well as the ability to cast 3rd-level arcane spells, so it makes it a viable option for wizards, sorcerers, and bards, as well as paladin multi-class characters. So, but yeah, you have to specifically have found a temple before you can even take that one. There's a master specialist that are spellcasters who have perfected a single type of magic beyond even the usual favored spells and types among wizards. So they don't have very much versatility or variety, but are deadly within their own school. That kind of reminds me a little bit of like when wizards have to take on a specific school of like, illusion or something like that.
Yeah, a focus school.
Right. So the prestige class requires your character to already be specialized in a specific school of magic, as well as casting at least 3rd-level spells, which limits it to wizard characters, either played straight or multi-class.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Uncanny Trickster. The ultimate in terms of unpredictability, with a seemingly endless catalog of underhanded and unexpected tricks that they can pull out at any given situation. Sounds like a bard and or rogue. It says that it has...
I assume sneak attack is a thing you need. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. It has loose requirements, only a minimum number of skill ranks and tricks. This makes it popular with rogues, bards, and rangers. There are other similar prestige classes that are better geared toward either combat or spell-casting characters. So, yeah, you need a few ranks and skills in order to do that. But you probably already know what those are. It's yeah.
Sleight of hand.
Pickpocketing or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Mindbender. Very cool. Mindbenders are sort of like arcane versions of psionics, focusing on their ability to charm and mind control. They bypass the subtle lines of morality and ethics of enchantment magic and go straight for the manipulation and mind control. Fun abilities like telepathy, increased charm spells, mental compulsion, eventually going so far as to make their domination of a creature's mind permanent, make up a Mindbender's arsenal. That seems OP.
Yeah, a little bit.
You just have a bunch of thralls under your command. It requires the players to have an already considerable magical ability worked into their character, which must include some ability to charm. It also requires that the character not be good aligned for good reason. Warlocks, wizards, and sorcerers are most likely to become Mindbenders. I figured that there was an alignment requirement for that. You can't be a good aligned character. And then, of course, you have the bestest. The Halfling Outrider. While some...
Yeah, they're riding war dogs.
Yeah, while most halflings are peaceful, hearth-loving people, their semi-nomadic culture frequently puts them in some danger. Halfling Outriders are their protectors and guardians specifically trained to ride out and watch for such trouble. So, as you can expect, they are mounted, highly adept at fighting from the back of their dog or pony. You can have pony too. Their feature and abilities include several tricks for this, including the ability to stand up straight and fight while riding alongside alertness and survival feats and abilities. As you might expect, it requires that you be a halfling, as well as have the mounted combat and mounted archery feats, and several survival-oriented skills. So, fighters, rangers, and druids are excellent choices if you're going to be an outrider.
If you're going to be a halfling.
If you're going to be a halfling and an outrider. Yeah, you gotta... Yeah. Can you imagine having a halfling druid that also rides on a pony? That'd be cool.
Oh, they can be their own pony.
Yeah, they could be their own pony. I don't know if that... Does that work? I guess so.
Can I be like a half centaur halfling that has this?
Then you could be your own... Yeah, probably. Yeah. That might work. Yeah. I guess the question
we actually call that a mini centaur.
A mini centaur?
Like a miniature pony.
Oh, a mini, yeah.
But it's also a halfling, so it's like a mini centaur, because usually centaurs are huge.
That's true. That's true. That's fun. That's fun. It's fun. Actually, mini centaurs seem like they would make a lot of sense because you could actually go into taverns and stuff. It's very hard to do that otherwise.
That or you call them a centaurling.
Centaurling? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Halftar.
Halftar.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, half cents.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway.
Don't have any thanks.
Yeah, sir. Do you see something like this being applicable in a 5e? Like, what if people said, I really like prestige classes instead of subclasses? I would think that you would still have to have them utilized in a similar fashion to subclasses, though, because they're so ingrained in the 5e system, where at a certain level I get these specific things. So
I think you could. I think it would be fun if you did. The issue I see with that is the fact that 5e has you tapping out at 20th level.
Yeah.
As much as the prestige classes usually were only 5 or 10 levels,
sure,
I don't really see a character necessarily wanting to do a prestige class and miss out on some really keystone class abilities. I think you could do it, but you'd miss out on a bunch of those capstone and just important abilities of being like a rogue, for instance.
Yeah. I'd like to see a version maybe where if you were taking prestige classes, maybe you could get something for prestige classes after level 20. You know, like maybe those would be the levels beyond if it was implemented in 5. Where
sure,
and that might not be based on your class or anything, but by your prerequisites in similar fashion.
Yeah, I feel the issue with that, however, is that how many campaigns do you know of that go and hit level 20 and above?
Unless they have specifically started their characters at that, like probably very few. I mean, I guess the better question is how many campaigns do you think have gone from literally level 1 to level 20? Like,
I'm sure plenty, but they are less common than I feel ones that don't.
yeah, absolutely.
I think an interesting thing you could do instead would be almost, you've played Diablo 3.
Yep.
You know, the Paragon system?
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like finding some way to implement something like that, where you can get reward points into things, maybe not permanent, like, strength boosts or anything like that, but, like, some kind of, not a prestige class, but, like, some kind of system where you could just be like, yeah, I'm gonna add a point into this here, a point into that there, because of, not level necessarily, but met, like, milestones or something. That could just be like, alright, it's not a prestige class, but it does augment or change or give you little bonuses here and there. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, well, Borderlands has implemented a similar system to that for many, many installments, where basically, when you tap out, and usually after you've completed the main quest, you still do get experience, but it goes into your guardian ranks or your badass ranks or whatever, and you can choose to get smaller bonuses that go off of that. That might work. That might work.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't be as special, though, because these seem like very specific kinds of characters that are being generated. And not just like, hey, you got a 1 to your strength now, or, you know, I got a skill point, I do 5% better at lockpicking. Like, it feels like completely changing the character type. Maybe that's something that you could opt into, but it doesn't, it's more of a lateral move. Like if you said that I'm going to be a wizard, but maybe I'm going to be a master specialist wizard, it changes how your leveling works for the wizard class, and what you get. Like maybe I don't get better at everything, I get specifically better at certain kinds of spells. And that it gets built into the leveling system itself. Maybe it's just not compatible, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Do you think that the subclass system or the prestige class system was a better way to handle character development?
I think both have their merits.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say the subclass system.
Yeah.
Because more people interact with that than they do, or did, I want to say, than with the prestige class.
That's true. Because, like, even we had trouble, like, really articulating what the prestige classes were, and I don't know if a lot of people even bothered to discuss it or take them. Because it's, as we said, it's optional. So, subclasses, on the other hand, are built specifically into the character design. So you have to interact with what you're going to do with the subclasses.
Right. So I like that system just more because it means out of the gate you're getting more of the character customization to make your character different. I know that people will say, oh, but in 3.5 you got to customize your skills any way you really wanted. And I understand that, but at the same time, a fighter was a fighter. A rogue was a rogue.
Yeah.
And in 5e, you can have, like, at least 3 different kinds of rogue. They function similarly, but they have different specialties. So you could still do that before, but now it's a more defined way to do that. So
yeah, fair enough. Okay. No, but I do like the idea of having systems that people are going to interact with, like, I don't mind necessarily if they have some cool system and maybe people engage with it if they do or they don't want to, but I have liked subclasses and being able to figure that out, because when I start characters, I know that I'm going to have to pick one. And so I start thinking about what makes sense to the character to pick as a subclass. And I think that that also helps to customize your character out of the gate. One rogue to another, one bard to another, one wizard to another. So I don't know. I think subclasses were a good move overall, but I think that it's interesting to look back at the prestige classes and what they tried to achieve and how they tried to modify characters. I kind of wish that they could implement them in some way. Maybe if they took the general concept of some of them and they applied them to feats you could take in the game. Because when you upgrade, there's the point where you can upgrade either your stats or your feats. And so, if we look through it, actually, there's probably some feats that are similar to some of these prestige classes. But that might be a way around it, because you have the versatility of taking them on if you have the requirements. Something to think about. But, well, anyway, we just talked about some 3.5 stuff, so you know people are going to watch this. So if you are watching this and you have any other input in how you feel about prestige classes, or the debate between prestige classes or subclasses and what you like better, please tell us in the comments down below, and we can continue this conversation a little bit more, since we're going to get one D&D, and they're going to change everything around on us yet again. So,
hooray!
Now we got to learn a whole new thing. Well, no, subclasses are going to be in that, so we know that. So, Alex, I think that we are subclassing to a show that is done from a show that was in process.
We're prestiging to that, yeah.
Yeah, we're prestiging to a complete podcast from an incomplete podcast, so that's fun. Incomplete podcasts, though, I do feel are more frequent.
They just stop.
My class is current podcaster, and I am graduating to pro podcaster.
One day.
One day. How many episodes do you have to do before you can take that prestige class?
I think it's based on audience size, so you know.
Oh, true. Well, we're never going to be able to take the prestige class, but it was nice while it lasted.
Anyways.
So, Alex, if people wanted to find out more information about our show, where could they go on the internet?
You can go to totalpebbeknockdown.com, check out our website if you like. It's full of fun stuff, our episodes, our Patreon, a little about us. If you want to get on the show, you can email us. Sure. All these good things.
If you have any suggestions for guests, feel free to hit us up over there. You can contact us on the contact page. And of course, you can find all of the episodes over on YouTube, and you can also find them on every podcast app known to mankind. Please rate and review when you're over there. You can still find us on many different social media networks. If we're there, I am going to be at Citanium.
I'm going to be at EXP Limited, and our show is at Pebble Knockdown.
So you can check us out there for all of your pebbling needs. If there's guests that you'd like us to talk about on the show, or you have suggestions for segments, please let us know. Actually, one of the best places to give us that is on our public Discord server, so feel free to tell us over there. We have a specific place where you can put episode suggestions, so we'd always appreciate that. Anyway, we're going to get out of here now because it's been a long show, and go on to other things. So until next time, thank you for joining us. We will talk to you at a later date. Goodbye for now.
Tomorrow.
Goodbye
forever.